Have you competed in the Excel Series? I just attended the PSA Summit in Orlando. I learned about some really significant changes that are upcoming for the Excel program. Hi everyone, this is Amy. Welcome to my channel. If you've watched my channel before, you already know I'm a massive supporter of the Excel Series. Before I dive into the upcoming changes, first, why does Excel exist? Excel provides more opportunities for single skaters to be inspired to work towards challenging, yet positive and attainable goals outside of well-balanced events that are suited for most skaters. If you think of skaters using a bell curve, on the left would be skaters that skate seasonally or a few times a week. These skaters love to skate, but maybe only on the ice for 2 or maybe 4 hours a week. Elise Preston and Mark Weitzman are the founders of the Excel Series. They explained in their presentation at the PSA Summit, these skaters are the least invested, but also have a ton of passion for the sport. The test track program really used to serve these recreational competitive skaters. And I explained more about what test track was in my previous videos about Excel. So I'm not gonna go into that in this video. If you missed those videos, there's a link to them in the description down below. Back to the bell curve. At the right side of the bell curve are heavily invested athletes with tons of ice time, instruction, and training both on and off the ice. These are the skaters that are in the best position for the opportunity to go to nationals and become part of Team USA. Those are the extremes. Most athletes fall into the middle. These athletes can get their double jumps, maybe even a handful of triples throughout their skating career. They train hard, work hard, skate often, and love to skate. They're usually on the ice 6 days a week. As invested as they are, these skaters often need a better competitive experience, so they're not leaving competitions feeling disappointed. That's the first problem that the Excel program is trying to solve. The second issue is to provide a stepping stone from 6.0 scoring into IJS with a slightly more phased approach. Excel does this at the lower levels by awarding level 1s. As a skater moves up, level 2s are added, then level 3, all the way up through level 4s. This can provide an excellent education on IJS as skaters continue their Excel journey. How does the Excel program work? I've covered this in other videos, so I'm just gonna go through this really quickly. Skaters can compete at Excel free skate events at most non-qualifying competitions. There's also a series that leads to the Excel National Final and Festival. The season for the Excel Series begins in January, and it runs through mid-June. The Excel Series Final and Festival is mid-July, while you can compete at any competition that offers Excel events. Only competitions that are designated as Excel Series competitions will count towards your participation in the Excel Series. Skaters that compete in open levels automatically qualify for the Excel Final and Festival just by registering for the series and by competing in 2 series competitions. Going back to that bell curve, think about the skaters that are on the left side of the bell curve. They're training less, and they're usually happily doing a few competitions each year, but they still want to have the experience to look forward to. This Excel Series Final and Festival provides that. It's a season highlight, and it's a big deal that every skater from Excel Beginner to Excel Senior has an extraordinary experience with. Workshops that focus on performing and having fun with movement. There are also meet and greets with Team USA athletes. Sometimes those athletes even lead some of the workshops. Plus, all of the male skaters are grouped together for an Iceman experience. And then levels are grouped together so that athletes get to know their competitors. They'll also watch a national level technical panel and hear how different spins are called. The higher level skaters also put on a group performance for the lower level skaters. The festival takes place in July so that skaters don't miss school. That July timeframe works for most skaters across the country. Schools in the Northeast are in session until the end of June, and schools in other parts of the country return back to school in August. Excel launched in 2019 with 711 skaters participating, only 9 of which were senior level. The first year, there were only 22 male competitors. This year, 2023, it has grown to 1,900 skaters, 55 of which are senior level, and there are a total of 91 male competitors. That's a big deal, guys. As the Excel program grows, there's a need for it to evolve and grow and adapt with the needs of the skaters. One of the issues is that the existing pipeline is confusing. There's a ton of redundancy between the levels. A balance needs to happen to ensure that all athletes feel challenged, but still within their reach. Let's talk about tests and the competitive floor. I've addressed this in several other videos, but it's so important. Even though the names of the tests are changing to pre-bronze, bronze, pre-silver, silver, pre-gold, and gold, you still need a minimum test to compete at a certain level. However, there's no ceiling to the testing now, so you can test regardless of what level you compete. But there is a competitive floor that establishes your minimum competition level. Anytime you enter a series through EMS, either the Excel series or the National Qualifying Series, you're setting that competitive floor. That is the lowest level you can compete at. For example, if you enter the Excel series as novice, you must compete at the novice level or higher at any future Excel competition. You couldn't enter the Excel series as intermediate the following year. That said, you could register for NQS at one level lower than your Excel series level. But when you register in EMS for NQS, you are establishing your well-balanced competitive floor at that level. There's now 2 different competitive floors. One floor is for Excel and the other floor is for NQS. The relationship between the two is 1 level, with NQS being 1 level lower than your Excel level. US figure skating passing that rule that decouples test levels from competition levels opened a door for Excel because there was a lot of redundancy in the levels. That was the case to ensure a competitive level for each test level and Learn to Skate USA level. Separating them out in terms of elements has always been challenging, even for us coaches. Now the Excel series is restructuring to reduce all that confusion, streamline the pipeline, and clarify the levels. This enables you as a skater to move forward more easily. What exactly am I talking about here? I mentioned this in a YouTube short, but now I have a little more information. If you're unfamiliar with Aspire, it's the bridge program between Learn to Skate USA, group classes, and full US figure skating membership. I have an Aspire program at Ice Vault in Wayne, New Jersey. So I'm super excited that Aspire is becoming more official and integrated into US figure skating. I have more details about Aspire coming up soon in my video about governing council updates. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss that video when I post it. Anyway, right now we have all these free skate levels. Plus we have Excel beginner and high beginner. What they're going to do is condense these into 4 levels. This should help to reduce all the confusion and redundancy. As skaters develop, we really don't need to have 13 different categories before you even get to your axle. Do we? That said, we do still need those stepping stones for skater development. That is what they want to do with condensing the free skate levels and Excel beginner and high beginner into Aspire 1 through 4. Next, as Excel moves forward, they also plan to combine some open levels with the plus levels. The thought is that this will allow more skaters in the Excel finals, and it will also allow for age banding. I'm going to get into age banding a little later, so stay with me. Anyway, they're looking at phasing this in so that you don't have to drop down to a lower level if you're competing at a particular open level. For next season, they told us the only level that will go away is Excel preliminary open level. That's the only one. If you're competing in Excel pre-preliminary, you can move over to Excel preliminary plus, or you could move up to the pre-juvenile Excel open level. They recognize that there are skaters in the open pipeline, and they want to allow them to continue moving through that pipeline without feeling like they're moving backward. They tell us that the charts will all be available by early fall for implementation in January 2024. There's no need to panic. There's going to be time to adjust and get familiar with all the new levels and requirements. This will help skaters and coaches plan and to consider how you're moving through the pipeline. What they don't want is for a skater to be on a track that may not exist in a few years. Essentially, each year they're planning to reduce one of the open levels. That way, if you're already in the open pipeline, you can still move forward. They plan to keep Excel Juvenile open at least until 2027 to 2028. The plan for intermediate, novice, junior, and senior is to leave them unchanged. That could change as they continue to evaluate. It does leave the door open, eventually, down the road, to possibly add a triple jump to senior, but they're not there yet. So they said they're gonna wait and see. Now let's get to age banding. To me, this is super exciting. Have you ever been to a competition where you competed against a skater much younger or older than you? That doesn't feel real good, does it? The idea with consolidating the levels is that they take all the skaters that have now been competing in 3 different levels and move them into a single event. In theory, more competitions will have more skaters of a similar age for the referees to break the groups out. Suppose, for example, the referee wants to make groups of 6. They have 6 skaters, age 8 and under, and then 6 skaters, age 9 to 12, and 3 teenage skaters that they can put in a separate group. Age banding allows the referees to do what they typically like to do when they see significant age spans in an event. While they're not going to prescribe age bands, they are going to take the Excel Series registrations for that season and look at preliminary or pre-preliminary and say, we have X number of skaters. Here's the median age. So we're gonna qualify this number of skaters from this age band and this other from this age band. Then as you compete and qualify during the Excel season, they will be able to qualify you based on your age. That way, you'll compete within that age band when you reach the final. That's another way they are trying to open the opportunity for more skaters to get into the finals. They stress that their goal at the end of the day is to take more skaters to the final. What's gonna happen next year, 2024? This is when the Aspire levels are gonna be introduced. Aspire 1, 2, 3, and 4 to replace Free Skate 1 through 6, Excel Beginner, and High Beginner competition levels. The other significant change is that the Excel Open preliminary level is gonna go away. The last thing they plan to do is that since IJS scoring is already being used for Excel Juvenile and intermediate levels, they will start making those become qualifying events. Right now, they allow any Juvenile Open or Intermediate Open skater into the final. But as they put together the schedule, they have no idea if they're gonna have 10 or 50 intermediate skaters. That means they don't know if they need 2 hours of ice or 7 hours of ice. That's a pretty big difference. This will help them figure out a number to allow more skaters at some of the other levels into the final. The following season, 2025, the Excel Pre-Juvenile Open level will go away. 2 years later, the Excel Open Intermediate will be phased out. The only duplication will be with the Juvenile. They'll keep the Juvenile open. Some of you have already asked me about this. So here's your Excel Series timeline. In August and September, competitions can apply to be part of the series. If you have a local competition that usually takes place during the series, that's January through early June, this is the time to encourage them to apply. In November, the list of approved Excel Series competitions will be posted. In December, Excel Series registration for skaters will open. The series will run from January through early June, with the finals in mid-July. Where can you find out more information about Excel? Log into US Figure Skating members only, click on Skating Opportunities, then Excel. Most of the information is under Series Information, Rules, and Resources. They tell us the information will be updated for the 2024 Excel Series by early September, except for that list of competition series events, which will be updated in November. By early December, you'll have all your information for the 2024 season. I will definitely do more videos as the information becomes available. So be sure to subscribe and ring that bell so that you don't miss any videos when I post them. If this video helped you, please give it a like and share it with somebody else you think it could help. Just post it to your social media too. This is Amy. Thank you for watching. Happy skating and happy competing. I will see you real soon. Bye.